Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our meeting tonight. My name is Ricky Pierce, and I'll be your host, talking about these fundamentals, these financial fundamentals. And I think all of us know that fundamentals, just like in basketball or football or volleyball or softball or track, they don't ever change, and that's what wins everything. That's what wins the games. And tonight we're going to talk about down the road. It's a place that all of us are going to be in for a very long time, for the rest of our lives, whatever the down the road destination is. And so we are trying to do as much as we can to encourage those that we serve, those that we'd like to serve, about how important it is to start saving money and investing money now, so when down the road gets here, you'll be able to live a lifestyle of dignity. On behalf of Bester Cooper Harris, my business partner, and all of our team members that invited you out tonight, thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time to talk about this very important subject of how money works and how it works down the road. So we're going to begin by talking about this particular subject. We're not going to deal with all the things you see here. That's a lot of things that you see, but we're going to talk about a few things. One of those is pay yourself first. The other one is discover the rule of 72. The other one is defer taxes. And the other one is invest with professional money management. With those 1, 2, 3, 4 things, we're going to deal with those things for just a few minutes. But I want to begin by saying pay yourself first. And what happens, we tend to pay everybody else before paying ourselves first. And people that's in this room right now, some work 50 hours a week. Some work 80 hours a week. Some have been known to work 100 hours per week. I was talking to a guy a while back. He said he put in his whole shift. He gets to the end of that shift and somebody else didn't come in and he had to stay for a whole nother shift. 24 hours. How did they do it? I guess we do what we have to do. And so the problem is not, working for the money. The problem is, how does the money work, and who's going to teach us that concept? And there are really 3 accounts to have a real complete savings program that we need to all make sure we have in this time we're living in right now, because if not, we're going to get to, as I mentioned, the end of this working journey, and we're not going to be anywhere within smelling distance as to where we need to be. And these 3 different accounts, number 1 is an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is just what it says, ladies and gentlemen. It's for emergencies. It's not for another car. It's not for a nice vacation. It's for emergencies. The next important account is this short-term account. And this short-term account is an account that's you're gonna buy something in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And you want to put aside about 6 months of that income for that purchase item that you intend to buy in the next 3 to 5 years. Then the last one is the wealth building account. The wealth building account is for down the road. And we got to put that money in a place where it's going to work better for us. You see, we can't put the money for the down the road account in a savings account, a checking account, a CD, not for down the road. It just doesn't have the power to generate the income we need to generate at retirement. So let's take a look at that for a moment. Invest with professional money management. Bypass the middleman. Who is the middleman? And what do you mean bypass the middleman? We're so familiar with the banks. We take everything here, and when I came up as a child, one of the older people in the community took me to the bank. It was called Compass Bank, that was Central Bank at that time, and opened up a checking account and gave me that little blue book, that little blue, looks like it wasn't leather, it was pleather, but I was so proud of that little checking account. I probably had about $25 in that checking account. I walked around in high school with my little blue book in my back pocket. I wanted you to see that I had a checking account. I didn't have any idea what it meant, what return, any of that. All I knew is I had an account. And for years, that's the mindset that many people that we talk with, grew up with, That's the mindset that they've adopted, and they held on to it for sometimes 30 and 40 years, and it has affected them big time. What we're saying is let's bypass the middleman and let's put our monies where the banks are putting theirs. Now, one of the reasons people say that I want to put my money in the bank is because they're going to give me a guarantee. And from my hometown, I'm from Lochapoka, Alabama. For those that not familiar with that town, it's not a real big town, but some great things have come from that town, and great people have come from that town. And so we say, I want you to give me a guarantee, not a guarantee, a guarantee. So the guarantee, what has happened with that, what did it do over the years? Here's a person putting in $10,000. They're getting a 1%, a 1.5% rate of return. After 1 year, they got $150 in that account that they've earned on that $10,000. If they're in a 22% tax bracket, they're going to pay $33 in taxes. So now the net earning then is $117. So they feel pretty good because they got 10,117. They made 117 more than what they had, but did they? If inflation is only 5%, that's going to reduce it down to $9,635. So what they have, ladies and gentlemen, is not a guarantee. They have a guaranteed loss. We've got to look at everything when it comes down to looking down the road. Why? Because down the road could be a long time, or we could live a long time in the down the road part of our lives. So what exactly then is a mutual fund? Mutual funds are a bunch of investors, a bunch of people that pool their resources under the management of professionals. And they take that money and invest it in the American economy. I think all of us are familiar with Procter & Gamble, Microsoft Corporation, Verizon, Pfizer, McDonald's, Netflix, Amazon. And what's amazing about mutual funds, one fund can have up to 150 stocks in that one fund. And we're going to talk about something called diversification as we get further into our meeting tonight as well. There's something called the 3Ds of investing. And it's a good way to keep your focus on your goals, to remember these particular 3Ds. That first one is discipline. Let's take our time and look at what discipline is in this regard. By staying focused and staying invested through all market activity, you can increase your long-term potential. And ladies and gentlemen, what we want is potential. We're not looking for guarantees, so to speak. We're looking for potential. When you go to a physician, the physician is a practicing physician, and they can't guarantee that things are going to turn in your better, but they can give you a regimen, a routine, an exercise routine, or whatever you did, some kind of supplement, vitamin, medicine to take to make it a little bit better. But if we don't do it, it would be even worse. So what we're saying right now is we're not trying to go to the moon or shoot for the stars. We're trying to do a whole lot better than we'll ever do putting money in these middleman situations, and it makes a big difference. Number two, the second D is diversification. And you've heard the old folks say that don't put all your eggs where? In one basket. Well, that's what mutual funds practice, where no more than 5% of your money is in any one company. So losses are somewhat neutralized over time. And this is especially true for our younger clients and our younger audience. If you right now are in your 20s and 30s and 40s and even in the 50s and putting money in a place that's not working for you, it's going to really hurt you down the road. Not just you, but it's going to hurt the next generation, the children and the grandchildren, because at some point it's going to all go to them. The last one is dollar cost averaging. And when I say dollar cost averaging, it is to decide on a certain amount of money per month, whether it be $50 a month, $100 a month, $500 a month, whatever it is per month, and stick with it. And don't invest with the headlines, invest with your head. So when you see the market up and down, just understand you've already set your goals, and it's for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Stay with it. Don't call the advisor and say, oh, tell him, get it out of there. Don't do it. Give it time to work, and it's going to work in your favor down the road. We got two examples here, Investor A and Investor B. They both are putting aside $100 per month. Investor A is putting his money aside in a rising market, and investor B is putting his money aside in a fluctuating market. Let's look at the difference in the two. Investor A, he feels pretty good because it's just going up and up and up and up and up. But investor A don't really understand that whatever goes up eventually will have to come down. But investor B understands how the market works and is using it to his or her advantage. So it went down here and down here and down and down and finally started going back up. Well, let's see how they both fared over time. Investor A, as investor B, is putting in $100 every single month. So in the first month, they paid $10 per share, bought 10 shares. 12 bought 8.33, 14 bought 7.14, $16 a share, he bought 6.25 shares, 18, 5.56. In the 6 months, they are $20 a share, he only bought 5 shares. So altogether, he bought 42.28 shares altogether. But now investor B, in this fluctuating market, in month 1, the shares are $10 a share. He bought the same 10 that investor A bought, but in month 2, they dropped down to 7. But he bought 14 shares then, the same $100 a month. Investor B bought $4 a share in month 3. He bought 25 shares. In month 4, $2 a share. He bought 50 shares that month with that same $100 that investor A only bought 6.25. And in the end, 125 shares here, 42 shares there. Now, what difference did it make? If you multiply the 42.28 shares times this $20, they have $845, investor A does. But investor B has 125 shares. It's at $10 a share now, and they got $1,259. You see, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of folks don't quite understand how that concept works. It's buying and holding and sticking with it for the long term, particularly when you've set a long-term goal for retirement, to educate a child, to pay off a house, whatever that long-term goal is. The American economy has done very well over a period of the long term. So don't let anyone talk you out of it and say, child, if I were you and I would do this and I would do that. And that same person is going to be kind of bad for them down the road. Let's talk about discover the rule of 72. The rule of 72 says if you divide your rate of return into the number 72, it's going to approximate the number of years it takes that money to double. So let's take a look at that. You got a case here where this person is getting a 3% rate of return in that first one. 3 goes into 72 24 times. So the money is going to double every 24 years. It went from 10 to 20 to $40,000. And they feel real good about that because the money is doubling every 24 years. But the question is, how many 24-year blocks of time do we have before it's ashes to ashes and dust to dust? So it's important then that we get a good rate of return, particularly depending on our age. Now, if you're already at a certain age and you're not trying to get that kind of return, well, that's different. But if you are in the working years, got kids in K through 12, got 20 and 30 years of working time in front, it's really important to look at getting the best return, a better return on your money. Somebody getting 6%. 6 goes into 72 then 12 times. So the money's going to double then every 12 years. It went from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to $160,000 over that same period of time. But now when I show you this next one, well, this couple is average in this example here, a 12% rate of return, meaning some year was a whole lot higher, some year was a whole lot lower, some year was a negative. But over that period of time, they average a 12% rate of return. Well, 12 goes into 72 6 times. So it's going to double every 6 years. I want you to listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't want to go too fast here, but I want to just go to the very bottom here. That's $2.5 million. 2.5 million versus 160 versus 40. Now, if you got 3 people here working on the same job, in the same corporation, in the same department, making the same amount of money, but 2 of them talk with their friends around the break table and say, man, what are you going to do? I mean, how are you going to invest your money? Because I heard about this, that, and the other, but I'm not real sure that that investment advisor know what she or he is talking about. And the guy says, yeah, you're right. I'm going to put mine in the bank. I'm going to allocate mine real conservative. And in the end, one has 1.2 million, one has 160,000 because people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. You've read that. Now, I want to go into another important thing, and this is looking at saving money for our children. If we can get our children to understand the concept of putting a little bit of money back now, some of the allowances that they get, the money they get for doing chores around the house. Some have their children working in their businesses and give them a check every single week or every 2 weeks. But we can get them to start thinking now about investing money. Does it make a big difference? Let's take a look at what $20 a month would do over a period of time. In 10 years, $20 a month is $3,900 for that child, averaging a pretty reasonable rate of return, about 9% rate of return. And so I can hear somebody saying, Ricky, what in the world is $3,000? Well, let me ask you this. How many 10-year-olds do you know that's got $3,000 or $4,000 saved? That's my point exactly. So in 40 years, that's $94,330 in 40 years. And that may not sound like a whole lot of money. But if we do a poll at your local, I don't know, Walmart, just as they come in, how many has $40,000 saved? How old are you, sir? How old are you, man? Well, I'm this age, I'm that age. And some are going to say they're a lot older than 40, but it's a handful, ladies and gentlemen, just a handful that can say they have 40 grand saved. So why is it important to get our children to do it now? So down the road, they can have a little bit of money put back. Suppose we get them to save $25 a week. That's an average of $100 a month. In that 40-year period of time, well, let's say in 10 years, that's $19,000. And again, how many 10-year-olds do any of us know that has $19,000 in their accounts? Now, some do, but the majority don't, which is why we're trying to make this conversation a common conversation. We're going to do another meeting next month that's going to be geared toward the children. If they do the same thing over a period of 40 years, that's $471,000 at 40 years old. And I want to ask you again, how many do you know that's that age, is 40 years old, that have almost $500,000 saved? You see what happened? We wonder how the neighbor down the street or the guy across the hall or the lady that you grew up with can have so much money saved and you have to have the same lifestyle, same jobs. It's because they learned this concept early and they taught it to their children. And when Christmas came around and birthdays, they told the aunties and uncles, don't bring the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. Put $25 in his account. Put $30, put $10 in that child's account. And over time, look at what happened. It made all the difference in the world. So please keep those things in mind. Let's talk about now deferring taxes. This is another really important thing. Uncle Sam, he's going to get his off the top. We all know that to be the case. But which kind of IRA do we want to take advantage of? Number one is a traditional IRA, where the money we put in is deductible. So it brings down the adjusted gross income, not paying as much in taxes. Then number two is a traditional IRA where the funds are not deductible. However, you don't pay any taxes on the earnings, the dividends, the capital gains, and all that. That money grows tax deferred. The third one is a Roth IRA. With a Roth IRA, you cannot deduct the money off the top, so you're paying taxes on the money, but everything that money earns, you don't get a 1099. That money grows tax deferred. And think about this. If you don't touch it for the first 5 years, when you take that money out, you take that money out at 59 and a half or older, tax exempt, tax free. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a big, 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 big deal. And there are those that have put aside a whole lot of money, and they get to retirement, they say, oh my goodness, Uncle Sam is going to skin me alive. And they remember, wait a minute, I had a Roth IRA. So I can take out every dime and go to a whole nother state and begin again, and not have to pay any taxes on the money that we've earned and grown over that period of time. Now let's talk about the power of tax-deferred savings. And I'm going to look at two sections here. I'm going to look at 20 years and I'm going to look at 30 years. And they're putting aside $500 per month. Over a period of 20 years, just putting that money aside and paying taxes every year, getting a 1099, not getting any kind of tax-deferred growth. Everything that they earn, Uncle Sam says, okay, come and see me. You made $1,000? Okay, some of that is mine, because that's ordinary income. That's that first one. So in that period of 20 years, he has $200,000. The next one, the taxes on the return are deferred. So he has $260,000. Let's call that a Roth IRA. Putting the money in, the money is not deducted from the annual gross income or adjusted gross income, but all the earnings grow tax deferred. So they got $260,000, $55,000 more than the other one. But the third one has $333,000. Let's just call that a 401k or 457 or TSP or RSA if you were in Alabama. So that money has grown to such an amount, but when they take that money out, again, they got $333,000 here. The money grows tax deferred and depending on the income, and it's also tax deductible. So it brings down the adjusted gross income. So that the income, all the income is not exposed to taxes. But when they take it out, they'll pay taxes then because that account grows tax deferred, tax deductible, but it's taxed when they take the money out. Let's look at 30 years. $915,000, $719,000, $486,000. How many in the room tonight know that we need to know the difference? You see, we're talking about legacy. We're talking about generational wealth. And if we don't make good decisions now, it's not only going to affect us, it's going to affect our kids and our kids' kids, the next generations. So what we're doing now, all of us that are putting money aside, listen, it's not just for us. I want that to sink in for a moment. It's not just for us. It's for the next generation. Right now, we're stewards. And our job is to grow it as much as we can and enjoy ourselves while we can. As my high school counselor told me, Mr. Clinton Jordan, years ago, he says, live long as you can and die when you just can't help it. The next important thing, I want to kind of close with this. You can do it. The path to financial independence starts with understanding a few basic concepts and then implementing those concepts. It's not just information, ladies and gentlemen, it's information and implementation. Because information without implementation leads to a whole lot of more frustration, and we're not trying to do that as we get older. Winning the financial war is the result of winning tiny battles every day. What kind of tiny battles? It's a tiny battle to say, I'm not going to eat out 3 days this week. I'm not going to eat out 5 days this week. I'm not going to spend $250 over the weekend in entertainment and eating out. I'm not going to buy another car and I got 3 car payments in my house. I'm going to learn to live within my means, not above my means. I'm not going to try to live like the Joneses. These are tiny battles. And over time, it makes all the difference in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for logging in tonight and letting us talk to you for a few minutes about down the road. And I hope you can join back in with us again on our next meeting. As a matter of fact, this is going to be on the 10th of September. And we're going to talk about how money works for kids. Same time. I'd like to encourage you to attend and also encourage the children to attend. Now that meeting is going to probably be about 20 minutes because if kids are going to be on that meeting, it's going to be on the 30th. I can assure you of that. I'm going to try to do it around 20 so we can hold that little attention for that period of time. But I'd like you to go back and then also encourage them or talk to them and say, son or daughter, grandson, granddaughter, what did you learn from this meeting? That's on the 10th of September at 7 p.m. Thanks again for plugging in tonight, and y'all have a great rest of the week. Look forward to seeing you again on September the 10th at 7 p.m. Take care.